Picture this. A man loses his homeland at age 11. He walks 2,000 miles as a refugee. He buries his mother. He buries his father. His best friend, the one person who cracked him open and made him whole, is murdered. And from all of that wreckage, all of that loss, all of that fire, he becomes the best-selling poet in the world. Not in his century, not in the Persian-speaking world, in the entire world, right now, today, in 2025.
Welcome or welcome back to Easy Talk, the podcast where we take the world's most fascinating stories and teach you to talk about them with confidence in English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jane, and today we are burning, beautifully, through the story of Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi, a 13th century poet who lost everything, found something even greater, and wrote words so alive that 800 years later, they still make people weep on their commute home.
This episode has everything: history, heartbreak, a wandering stranger who throws books into a pond, mystical friendship, grief turned into poetry, and, because this is Easy Talk, 10 new English words you can use to discuss it all.
If this is your first time here, welcome to the community. Every episode, we take big global stories and give you the language to discuss them fluently, thoughtfully, and impressively. To our returning listeners, you already know what we do. Let's go.
But first, do us a favor. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and if this episode moves you even a little, and I think it will, give us a thumbs up. It takes 2 seconds and it genuinely helps us reach more English learners around the world.
We also have a big question for you at the end, and we really, truly want to hear your answers in the comments, especially if you're listening from Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, or anywhere that Rumi once walked. Ready, Jane? I've been ready since 1244.
Perfect.
Let's begin.
Jane, before we dive in, I want to ask you something. When most English learners hear the name Rumi, what do they think?
Honestly, they probably picture a quote on Instagram, something like, "You were born with wings, why prefer to crawl through life?" over a sunset photo with a nice font.
Okay, I've definitely seen that.
And look, those quotes aren't wrong. Some of them really are Rumi, but the problem is they've been stripped completely out of context. The real Rumi is so much stranger, more complex, and more powerful than the smooth gown inspirational version we've inherited.
So what is the real Rumi?
The real Rumi is a man who spent decades building a perfect, respected life, and then watched a wandering stranger throw his most precious books into a pond, and instead of being angry, he woke up.
That is not the quote on Instagram version.
Not even close. The real Rumi is a man who learned that grief is not the opposite of joy, it is the door to it. That loss is not the end of a story, it is where the real story begins.
And this connects to our English how?
Because Rumi's poetry is studied in literature classes, quoted in debates about spirituality, philosophy, and psychology, and referenced in conversations about loss, love, culture, and identity all over the English-speaking world. To understand Rumi is to unlock a whole new level of cultural fluency.
Plus, and I want to say this clearly, his story is genuinely incredible. Even if you didn't care about English at all, this is just an extraordinary human story.
Absolutely. So today we are covering it all. Who Rumi was, what shaped him, the friendship that changed him forever, the grief that made him a poet, and what his message actually means. And at the end, 10 essential vocabulary words to help you talk about all of this in English.
Let's get into it.
All right, Mike, let's set the scene. The year is 1207. The place is Balkh, a city in what is today northern Afghanistan, but in Rumi's time, one of the great intellectual centers of the Persian world.
What was Balkh like?
Think of it as the Oxford of the medieval Islamic world. Scholars, poets, Sufi mystics, libraries full of manuscripts, and into this world a boy named Jalal ad-Din Muhammad is born, the son of a man known as Sultan-ul-Ulama, the Sultan of Scholars.
He was basically born into a dynasty of knowledge.
Exactly. From day one, this child is surrounded by books, prayer, theological debate, poetry. He is being groomed, in the best sense, for greatness.
And then?
And then the horizon turns dark. Rumi is around 11 years old when Genghis Khan's Mongol armies begin their western conquest. Cities are destroyed, libraries burned, entire civilizations consumed. And Rumi's father makes a decision. We leave tonight.
11 years old, and you're a refugee.
Overnight, they abandon everything and begin walking, and I want you to really absorb this, more than 2,000 miles westward, through Iran, through Baghdad, through Damascus. Brilliant, educated, displaced, carrying their inner wealth through a world that's on fire around them.
What happened to them along the way?
Something remarkable, actually. In the city of Nishapur, they encounter an elderly poet named Farida bin Attar, one of the greatest mystical poets Persia had ever produced. He looks at young Jalal and says to his father, "Your son will soon set the hearts of many on fire."
A prophecy.
A prophecy, and they carry it with them for the rest of the journey. They eventually settle in Konya, a prosperous city in Anatolia, what is today Turkey, and here, finally, they stop running.
And Rumi becomes...
He loses his mother, he loses his father, he studies ferociously, travels to Aleppo, to Damascus, and becomes, by every external measure, a great man. Respected scholar, hundreds of students, a reputation that stretches across the region.
Sounds like success.
On the outside, yes, but here's what the story tells us, and this is one of my favorite ideas in all of Rumi's biography. Inside that perfectly constructed tower of learning, there was a room that had never been opened, a room with no books in it, a room that could only be entered through loss.
And something was about to knock on that door.
Very hard.
Tell me about Shams.
Shams al-Din Tabrizi, the sun of religion, possibly the most important stranger in the history of world literature. He was everything Rumi was not, publicly. No books, no title, no institution. He had taken a vow of poverty and wore it like a crown. He traveled alone, slept in doorways, and spent years wandering from city to city asking one question, so dangerous that most men refused to answer it.
What was the question?
We don't know exactly. Different historical sources preserve different versions, but all of them agree on this. When Shams stepped in front of Rumi's horse on November 30th, 1244, and asked it, something cracked open in Rumi that 37 years of education had never touched.
Like a key finding its lock.
Perfectly put. And from that moment, they were inseparable, the scholar and the wanderer, the man of books and the man of fire. For months they talked, argued, sat in silence, explored the innermost chambers of what love and God and loss really mean.
And Rumi's students?
Not happy. They watched their teacher turn his whole face towards this strange dervish, this homeless, wandering mystic, and felt forgotten, jealous, resentful.
What about the books in the pond story? I need to know.
Yes, okay. On one of their first days together, Shams walks into Rumi's study. Rumi gestures toward his enormous library, manuscripts handed down from his father, ancient, irreplaceable texts, and says, perhaps testing this stranger, "These are things you wouldn't understand." Shams picks up the books and throws them into a nearby pond.
No, he did not.
He did, and Rumi cried out in horror. And then, and this is the part that matters, Shams reached into the water and pulled the books back out. Dry, not a single page damaged. Now, whether that's literal history or sacred legend, I honestly don't know, but the meaning is clear. The knowledge you cling to is not the knowledge that will save you.
There is something deeper than what can be written in a book.
There is, and Rumi understood that.
Rumi became that. So what happened to Shams?
This is where the story gets genuinely dark. Rumi's students, jealous, threatened by this wanderer who had stolen their teacher's heart, made life so miserable for Shams that he left, disappeared, and Rumi was devastated. He searched for him, he sent his own son to find him. Shams returned, and then, one night in 1248, Shams al-Din Tabrizi walked out of a room and was never seen again.
Murdered?
Almost certainly. Some historical accounts point directly to Rumi's own son as being involved. The wound of that loss, the man who had cracked him open, gone, was total. And Rumi's response was not to close back up, it was to write.
The Masnavi.
The Masnavi, a 6-volume, 25,000-verse masterpiece of spiritual poetry. He begins it with the image of a reed flute, cut from the reed bed, crying with longing, and says, "Listen to this sound. This is you. This is all of us."
That's the wound is the gift.
That's exactly it. He wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." He didn't pretend the loss wasn't agony. He pressed his ear to the wound and listened for music inside it, and he found it. And the whole world, 800 years later, is still listening.
He died at 66, right?
In December 1273, he called his death his wedding night, Sheb-e-Arus, not an ending, a union. And when he died, the streets of Konya filled with mourners, Muslims, Christians, Jews, people of every faith, because he had spent his whole life insisting the divine welcomes everyone, the wanderer, the broken, the proud, the lost.
His tomb is still there in Konya, Turkey, the Mevlana Museum. Every year, pilgrims from every continent on earth come and sit beside it in silence. They carry griefs he couldn't have imagined, and they find, in his words, something that speaks directly to their own lives.
His words are purely powerful.
That is the power of a universal story.
That is the power of going through the fire instead of running from it.
We are going to pause here for just a moment because if you're still with us, you are exactly the kind of listener this podcast is made for.
Seriously, this is the content we love to make. Deep, meaningful, language-rich conversations about the most important stories in human history.
If you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe right now if you haven't already, and share this episode with a friend, a classmate, a colleague, anyone who loves language and stories and the kind of history that actually matters.
Tell us where in the world you're listening from.
And now, vocabulary time.
All right, everyone. Time for our quick vocabulary review. 10 essential English words for discussing Rumi, Sufism, Persian history, and the ideas his poetry explores. These words will sharpen your English and deepen your understanding of one of humanity's greatest minds. Word number 1, exile. Noun. Exile means being forced to leave your homeland, often for political reasons or because of danger, and living as an outsider in another place. Example, Rumi spent his entire adult life in exile, far from his birthplace in Bach. Word number 2, mysticism. Noun. Mysticism is the belief in the possibility of direct, personal union with the divine, with God or ultimate reality, through spiritual experience, meditation, or contemplative practice. Example, Rumi's poetry is rooted in Islamic mysticism, specifically the Sufi tradition. Word number 3, grief. Noun. Grief is deep emotional suffering caused by loss, particularly the loss of someone or something deeply important. Example, Rumi transformed his grief over the disappearance of Shams into the most beautiful poetry in Persian literature. Word number 4, longing. Noun. Longing is a deep, persistent desire, often for something you cannot have or something you have lost. Example, the reed flute in Rumi's Masnavi is a symbol of longing, crying for the reed bed from which it was cut. Word number 5, transcendence. Noun. Transcendence means going beyond ordinary limits, exceeding normal human experience, especially towards something spiritual or divine. Example: Rumi's whirling Sema dance was a form of transcendence, the body moving until the ego dissolved and the soul opened. Word number 6, legacy. Noun. Legacy is what a person leaves behind after their death, their lasting influence, contributions, or impact on the world. Example: Rumi's legacy includes over 25,000 verses of poetry and a spiritual movement still active in more than 80 countries. Word number 7, persecution. Noun. Persecution means being treated cruelly and unfairly, often because of your religion, beliefs, ethnicity, or identity, especially over a sustained period. Example: many scholars fled westward to escape the persecution brought by the Mongol invasions. Word number 8, disillusionment. Noun. Disillusionment is the feeling of disappointment that comes when you discover that something you believed in, an idea, a system, a person, is not as good or true as you thought. Example: Rumi's disillusionment with purely intellectual knowledge led him to seek a deeper, more personal truth. Word number 9, reverence. Noun. Reverence means deep respect and admiration, often with a sense of awe, especially towards something sacred or profoundly important. Example: pilgrims visit Rumi's tomb in Konya with reverence, sitting in silence beside the grave of the man whose words changed their lives. And our final word, number 10, illumination. Noun. Illumination means light, literally, but also understanding, insight, and spiritual clarity. Example: Rumi wrote that the wound is the place where illumination enters, meaning that our deepest pain can become our greatest teacher. There we have it, 10 essential words: exile, mysticism, grief, longing, transcendence, legacy, persecution, disillusionment, reverence, and illumination. Master these words and you will be able to discuss Rumi, Sufi poetry, Persian history, and the human experience of loss and transformation with real depth and beauty.
Jane, I have to say, every time we record an episode like this, I leave feeling like I understand something about being human that I didn't understand before.
That is exactly how Rumi makes me feel every time.
What is your main takeaway from his story?
That the things we run from are often the things we need to walk through. Rumi didn't become the world's greatest poet because his life was easy. He became the world's greatest poet because his life was hard, and he refused to look away from that hardness. He pressed his ear to the wound. He listened, and what he heard became music for the whole world.
And the English language lesson in that?
That the most powerful language, in any language, comes from truth, from specificity, from being willing to name what is really happening. Rumi didn't write vague, comfortable poetry. He wrote from the burning center of what it means to be alive, and to love, and to lose. That's why it still works 800 years later.
Now, we want to hear from you. Here's our question of the day. Has a loss in your life ever eventually led to something beautiful? A new direction, a new understanding, a new version of yourself? Tell us in the comments. We genuinely read them.
And if you're listening from Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, or anywhere along the path Rumi once walked, tell us. There is something extraordinary about hearing this story from inside the geography that shaped it.
If this episode moved you, taught you something, or gave you new words to talk about something you already felt, please give it a thumbs up. It takes 2 seconds and helps more people find this story.
Subscribe to Easy Talk and turn on notifications. We go deep on stories like this every week.
Share this episode with someone who needs it, especially someone in the middle of a loss they don't yet understand. Sometimes the best thing you can give someone is the story of a man who lost everything and became a light the whole world still reads by.
I'm Jane,
And I'm Mike.
and this has been Easy Talk.
Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and remember.
The wound is not the end. The burning is not destruction. And somewhere inside whatever you are carrying right now,
There is a poem trying to get out. Goodbye, everyone.